I'd like to call the October meeting of the Properties Committee to order. Okay. Sharon is not here today, but we have a quorum. And going over the minutes of the September 8th meeting, I did tell Karen that on page 2, that where it says under 502, Properties Policy Review, next steps, where it says the CFO to consider implementing a full-time equivalent tracker. That wasn't a properties issue, that's more budget and finance. So I asked her to remove that. And with that change, if anybody else has any issues, otherwise we'll accept them with the change. Okay. Moving on to Carl and your update on facilities and capital projects.
Good morning, committee. Thank you for having me today. September was a very busy month. The capital projects update is beginning at R.H. Johnson. The metal shop parking lot and asphalt mill and replacement project was completed. So the metal shop has a brand new parking lot installed, and that is complete. The Rip and Sew Club Room millwork reface, that project was completed as well. So we did a reface of all the cabinetry, a full room repaint, and the lighting upgrade, that is another project that's ongoing in the rec centers, converting to LED fixtures, that was completed, and the carpets got cleaned. At the R.H. Johnson Rec Center, overall interior lighting conversion to LED fixtures. The areas that have been completed to date are the admin building, the library, Rip and Sew, and men's club. Upcoming areas of progress will most likely be the activity center and the facilities maintenance department, and the outer buildings, possibly the Arc and lawn bowling and tennis facilities building. So that's probably next on the schedule. R.H. Johnson parking lot number 2, asphalt mill and replacement, phase 1 was completed on 9/23, and we are currently gonna begin phase 2 with soil stabilization. This past Monday, the governing board approved a change order for stabilizing the soils in that parking lot, and tomorrow the vendor arrives to begin that process. So we're approximately 2 weeks behind on what the original intended finish date was, but we'll get that done as soon as possible. The R.H. Johnson admin building carpet replacement project was completed on 9/25. We achieved 3 phases of carpet replacement throughout the whole entire admin building, while employees worked either a little bit from home or in other offices. So we maintained full operations during that project. It was a very large logistical project, because not only did we replace the carpet in those areas, we did a full admin building repaint. The lighting conversion happened, and other improvements where needed, and everybody maintained business. We just closed some areas in each week that it was scheduled. So over at Beardsley, the swim and fitness lobby enclosure project has a temporary certificate of occupancy. I reported that last month. The windows, I am happy to report, are fully installed. They look very nice. The window frames, let me correct that, and all of the stucco repairs to the exterior now that the window frames are in. So in approximately 2 weeks, we'll have glass, and then we will complete the interior drywall areas that butt up to the frames. And that project is projected to be completed by the end of October. Over at Kuntz, the maintenance building roof restoration has been completed. That is a very small storage building used by clubs and staff over by the tennis courts. That project was completed on 9/26. The Palm Ridge parking lot asphalt seal and stripe project was completed on 9/7. Just a reminder there that every time we do a brand-new parking lot, approximately 12 to 18 months later, we are back on that parking lot again doing a seal coat to preserve that brand-new asphalt. So that's what that project entailed. And then over at Deer Valley, the Pro Shop parking lot asphalt mill and replacement, that parking lot also was fully removed and a brand-new parking lot installed, completed on 9/14. That ends my report. Any questions?
Carl, when the glass finally comes in, what is the plan for is Beardsley going to be shut for a short term of a few days to put that glass in and do the other necessary work that needs to be done?
Actually, no, we were very successful in the frame installation by delineating off half of the room for traffic, and we plan on doing the same thing for the glass. So the vendor will work near the windows inside and out, and we have safe traffic to all the rest of the area. So we'll maintain an open operating lobby.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So, how much, this is for my personal, I guess, information, is how much did it cost for us to do the rip and sew millwork reface?
I believe we had a approved budget of $30,000, and I don't think.
Just roughly?
Yeah, I don't think we used it all.
Oh, good, okay.
I can be specific. So my correction on that, we had a $36,000 project, and all final POs, $39,278. So we went slightly over budget on that item.
Thank you.
Russ?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. So in facilities operations, we have hired 2 new facility leads, one at Beardsley and one at Palm Ridge. Beardsley is Michael Wellman, and Palm Ridge is Christy Schmidt. Properties met her at the tour last Tuesday, and then we'll meet Michael when we do Beardsley. Down to facilities maintenance, we are still working with vendors to get the holes core drilled in the pool deck. I did just receive a bid today for that, so we are halfway there. We installed a pool clock over at R.H. Johnson, which has become very famous. I'm sure we'll discuss that more. And the pool deck surface is started to peel very badly over at Johnson. We have scraped all the loose stuff up. We figured we might as well just make it nice and ugly. I'd rather have it ugly than have constant loose pieces, people stepping on them. So Carl has moved this forward for next year's budget to redo the deck surface. We knew when we did the job back in, it's been 6-7 years ago, they chose to do cool deck. Cool deck is a mystery. If it may last 20 years, it may last 5 years, and of course it's revealing itself now. So I would just ask that the users be patient, and we'll get a nice looking deck and have that pool back to snuff sooner than you know. That ends my report.
Russ, approximately when would that project take place?
If approved, it is currently in the proposed capital budget that you'll be hearing from me today. If approved, July 1st of 23 is the first available funds. Based on conversations with the vendors, I think I would try to avoid most of the summer heat and expect to do it in the month of September and as much as possible in the evenings due to the open exposed drying circumstances. So.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Russ or Carl? All right, thank you. All right, going to item 4.01, policy review, FA01. And revised FA06, section 3.4. Carl, when he gives his update on the capital projects, will be going through some of the planning process. We reviewed this several times. Did you update this at all? The chart?
The approved governing board project planning process has not been revised since it was approved approximately a year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago, okay. Does it need changing?
No, ma'am.
Okay. We're happy about that. Okay. All right, moving on to FA06. There's a correction that needs to be changed. On 3.4, at the end of the sentence, it should read the General Managers and Governing Board Executive Assistance Office instead of the General Manager.
She had more than one office.
No, she only has that. Yeah, it should be singular, correct, Karen? General Managers and Governing Board Executive Assistance Office. Oh, okay. Okay, we were reading it wrong. Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the change at 3.4? All right, we have Tom. We have a second? All right, Marshall, second. All in favor? Aye. All right. It passes. I think that's it. All right. All right. Our next is 4.02, Softball Improvement Capital Project. Craig Hone will be making the presentation for the softball club. It's up to you if you want to. If you want to move to be able to see behind you, you should have the slide presentation in your packet.
Chairman Davidson, Board, nice to be here and present our things that we need. Anyway, Dave Rigg is going to be my second here. He's a past president in BC before Craig. He did all the heavy lifting on this in the spring, submitted all the forms, and so he's an expert, and our committee's here. And so thank him for doing that. Thank you for listening to us. And I'll turn it over to Dave. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Davidson, and the committee for allowing us to talk today. This is going to be a tough one because most of the governing board members, they've sat through this presentation probably 3 times. So if you see Sharon and Tim out there mouthing it while I'm going through, they already know what's going on. So the softball club is got some improvements that we are interested in submitting. And we've got four items that we want to discuss, and we put them in priority of what we feel will get the most benefit for all of our club members. The first one's the outfield fence and artificial turf, the updated bleachers, remodeling the clubhouse, meeting room, and then the batting cages. And this presentation's an informational presentation. It's not going to get into a lot of dollars and cents because Carl's going to talk about that a little bit after we're done. The outfield fence and artificial turf is going to be a good benefit for not only the softball club but for Sun City West. We were informed that a project had been to replace the outfield had been in existence at Liberty Field, and at a later date the club had determined that it probably would be good if we could change the outfield from grass to a turf. And water concerns are increasing in Arizona, and this project would give Sun City West a head start on current federal and future mandates by the federal government, the state government, and Maricopa County. And this conversion will also be a benefit in regard to turf maintenance. As you can see, the 4 no's that are up there, we're talking no water, no seeding, no fertilizer, no mowing. And the turf will require some maintenance in regard to vacuuming of leaves and twigs as the winds blow and everything. And it'll probably involve the purchase of a larger vacuum. But it'll help also fluff up the compressed areas in both the infield and outfield, which we do now for the infield. Additional benefits to the club will be more playing time, and the fact that maintenance personnel can be utilized at other locations of Sun City West that help alleviate some of the problems of finding employees in maintenance backgrounds. Currently on Wednesdays, the ball field is shut down for maintenance, and they do a lot of like fertilizing and excess work that they don't normally do other days of the week. And so with the artificial turf in the entire infield and outfield, then we will be able to play on Wednesdays. And then we also shut down at right after Labor Day till towards the end of October for reseeding and special jobs that Todd Patty's group likes to do on the field. So doing both projects together would help reduce the number of large pieces of equipment that would be driven into the areas, whether it's in the outfield on the grass or when they're putting the outfield fence in, or tearing up the installation of the turf if that was done before too. So that's consolidating these 2 projects is going to be a benefit both for, I think, Carl's part and for the club's part. It'll also reduce the amount of time that the field could not be used during the replacement of the fence. One time be shut down, and these projects are not 2-week projects, so if they replace the fence at one time, it would be down for a period of time, and then later with the turf, it'd be down again. So we reduce the downtime if we do them together. Our second project that we wanted to discuss was the updating of the bleachers. The bleachers are about 25 years old, and they function well, but we have, from a safety standpoint, they've done a good job, but we see where we could enhance and improve the use of the bleachers, especially for handicapped and individuals that have mobility issues. Right now, the bleachers, if somebody wants to go up the stairs on them, there's a railing on one side that they can hold on to as they're going up the steps. But then if they need to go in 2 or 3 seats in, then it's difficult because there's nothing for the individual to hold on to as they're sliding through the walkway there. And if they require a walker, there's no room right now for them to use that walker as they're trying to get to their seat. This proposal involves moving bleachers back from where it's located right now. As you can see the picture on the right-hand side, if the bleachers are moved back, there's going to be more room for walking through the front of those bleachers. And what it'll do then is we could have access from the ground level of the parking lot, and then if you go over to Arch Johnson where the sidewalks are there, they'd be moved back. So people in wheelchairs, mobility problems, they could walk right into the back of the bleachers, and we would have areas in there where they could sit in their wheelchairs or their walkers, or we'd have seats assigned there for if they've got walking concerns to sit up and then watch. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more on the benefit of having those bleachers moved back. When you look at the picture on the right-hand side, you'll see how close that is, the bleachers are to the fence there. So if we have games or we have special events, that can get pretty congested because we have a picnic area out beyond the third base dugout, and then people have to walk through there if they want to go to the first base side. And if people want to use the restrooms, they have to go up a steps to get to the restrooms and that. So, and if the people are sitting in the front row and they have food, they're sitting there, people walking by have possibility they could trip on people sitting there, and if they get food, they could dump into the people in the right or first or second row. So this would be just it's a nice enhancement for what we have at the ball field right now. The congestion is a big concern, most of all on this one. By putting the handicap access back there, we could coordinate with some of the independent and medical facilities here, assisted living, so that if they want to set up a special date to come down and watch a ball game, then they have access to come in, watch the game, get in and out. And we've had instances where we have a lot of ball players that are getting up in age, and so they can no longer play, but they still like to come down and watch a ball game. Well, if they've got mobility issues, it's tough for them too. So this would make it easy for a lot of our club members as well. The lower clubhouse exterior renovation kind of runs hand in hand with the bleachers. As you can see the steps there, you're down on a lower level where the ball field is, and on the upper level there is where the parking lot is. And so on the right-hand side, there's a men's restroom that's at the top of the stairs. On the left-hand side, there's a women's restroom that's on it'd be the west side. And so if people are down below, we have room for, like, say, if they have a wheelchair or walkers of that, where they can sit and watch a ball game, but then if they have to go to the restroom, they have to walk all the way around past the third base dugout, and there's a ramp that they can come down to get to the lower level. They have to go up the ramp and then walk all the way over to either one of those restrooms. And if they're on the first base side, it's even a longer trip for them, because then they got to go all the way in back of the home plate and all that to get there. So when the clubhouse was originally built, there were a few features that didn't address some of the concerns that we have today, and so that's one of the things that we want to address on this one. There's another feature in the remodeling project too that we can consider is, if you go to the right in that right-hand picture, go over a little ways, there's another set of steps that are wider steps. That possibility that we could put a ramp in there that would even make it easier for people to come down to the lower level and then go around to the bleachers, rather than having to go all the way around past the third base dugout and that. So that's another possibility as well. We have most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with what the clubhouse looks like. It's a two-story clubhouse. It's very narrow, and it's used a lot for various functions. The current meeting area and storage area are too small. They're upstairs, and I'll have a picture that I'll show you that. The current meeting area can comfortably accommodate about 6 people, but we have a lot of different meetings for the clubs, especially sessions when we're starting out. We'll have managers meetings, we'll have drafts, and so frequently we have about 20 to 30 people that attend those sessions. And so, as you can see, that's a very narrow room. The 2 people that are sitting in the back there, they're maintaining the score sheets and the scoreboard, and you see the table is very narrow, and again, it can accommodate about 6 people. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see storage rooms there, and we had 83 different teams that had played from when we started in the end of October through Labor Day, and that includes our 3 primary leagues, 70s League, Co-Ed League, and then we have 3 summer sessions that we play. And so all those uniforms are stored in the room. And unfortunately for us, and some of it is when we start in one session, we start another session, so you got them coming in and out. But they have to be in a controlled environment. We store softballs. We buy bulk orders of softballs so we can get the best prices possible for the balls. They have to be maintained in a controlled environment. Otherwise, with the Arizona heat, that can cause problems with deterioration of the balls. And then we also have uniforms that when we have new members join the club, they get shorts, pants, hats, and caps and visors, and then belts. And so those are maintained up there as well. So if we can expand the clubhouse, then we can take care of our storage issues and then have our meeting issues all taken care of. We play games from late October to September, like I said, and not including special events. Between October and April, that's when the primary leagues play. We average about 25 games per week, and we play on Mondays, Tuesdays. We're off on Wednesdays, and then we play Thursday through Saturdays, and then there's practices on Sundays. And so when the games are not being played, then we can use the room for meetings. But if there's games, we can't use it. It's too much of a noise issue there. And like I said before, when we have the meetings, we do run about 20 to 30 people in those rooms. When we have our general membership meetings, we have them here, so that's not an issue for room there. The other concern that we have is up where that meeting room is, it really doesn't subscribe to American Disabilities Act because it's a long stairways that goes up. And like I was talking with Sharon the other day, she said, oh, maybe we'll have to put an elevator in there, which could be true. But what we do to accommodate that is we'll have meetings downstairs, but there's not much more room down there. There's not tables, and we can bring chairs in there. So we can accommodate that concern. A couple of the options that have been discussed is, one, to expand that level to move the walls out to the east and the west sides of the building as it exists. But the concern on that is that it might not be feasible and cost prohibitive to do that. And so we came up with another option, which would be to build a second standalone clubhouse beyond the outfield fence. We have a storage shed that's out there that's been there for about 3-4 years now, and it's just a garage. There's no climate control there, but there would be room to build a facility there, and Carl will address that a little bit when he talks. But that is an option that we had there. And Carl has the rough draft of what we put together for the possibility of doing that. The last fourth item that we have is batting cages to be located beyond the outfield fence. The cages could be located near where option B is. Most of you probably have never even seen where we're talking beyond the outfield fence because it's pretty well hidden out there. But there is sufficient room out there. It's just a matter of utilities and that sort of thing. We currently have one batting cage that our people can use, and it's it has a, like, remember your grandkids, or maybe even some of you played t-ball, where you put a ball on the tee and then you'd hit from that. So it's not a moving ball, and that can only be used one person at a time. So when people are warming up between games, or it can get a little bit congested. But it works, but we want to be able to prove our facilities, because we have, especially new club members, they haven't played slow pitch softball for sometimes 30 to 40 years. And yesterday with the expo, I was up there, and two individuals came up, and that's exactly what they said was, boy, I don't know if I can play softball or not because I haven't played for 40 years. I said, well, join the club, because that's how probably 90% of us are. We haven't done it either. So, but when they join the club, they have a strong desire to improve their skills. And of course, batting is one of the areas that they really want to improve on. Hitting a ball off a stationary tee is good, but it doesn't help by hitting a moving ball when it's being pitched. And we do have practices on the field, but a lot of the club members can't always be at those practices because they're involved with other clubs, or some of them are even working and that sort of thing. So the two batting cages they would be a revenue generator for Sun City West, but it's also more important a way that our club members can improve their skills, especially in batting. We currently go to facilities like D-Bats, which is over on Thunderbird and the 101, which is about a 20 to 30 minute drive. And so by having the batting cages here, more of the club members would be prone to use it. Our residents in Sun City West could use it, and even beyond, so they could enjoy the cages as well. At D-Bats, you purchase basically it's a credit card, and they'll put so much money, whatever you want to pay, on there. And so when you do a round, you get about 15 balls, and the cost is about $1.25 a round over there. And those rates can change to whoever owns the batting cages at their different facilities. And they're around Victory Lane. They have them over there as well. The cages can be scheduled for use throughout the day and early evenings. The cages include chain link fence that would go around all the sides, and then on the roof portion of it, and then inside there would be soundproofing heavy materials that would help reduce the noise level, which isn't terrible anyway. But it also, we have soft balls that are used in it, so that deadens the sound a little bit. And it also is easier for the individuals' bats as they're batting, because you're not hitting as hard a ball. And the bats for our club members sometimes cost $100 to $400. So it's a little bit of an investment on their part for the bats. As you can see, the field projects will take us into the next decade, because these are long-term projects. It's not something that we're looking at for 1 year, and then the next year we'll have to do something else with it. And these changes allow for added day every week to play, and no need to close the 2 months for reseeding. From the start of our fall session in 2021 and the end of last summer session, which was right after Labor Day, we had close to 1,800 players that used that field. Now, we have 350 members in the club, so now you're saying, well, if you have 350, how are you getting to 1,800? Well, we have the different leagues that our players can play in. We have the three primary leagues. I happen to play in the Central League, and I'm going to tell you my age now, but I can also play in the 70s league, and I can play in the co-ed league. So there's different opportunities I have to use that field. And when you add the special events that we have, which can be like one-pitch tournaments and special tournaments for the primary, the leagues, that gets us up to over 2,500 players that get out on that field throughout the year. For over 25 years, our club, along with the general managers, including Bill Schwind, have looked at other resources and locations to possibly put a softball field. But to date, nothing has come up because everything's been pretty much cost prohibitive to do that. So that's one of the reasons why we're looking to invest these improvements to the ball field so we can still grow and use the field. A good example of growing right now is we have what they call a green team, where new people come in and they get evaluated by their running, hitting, batting, and throwing. And Monday we had 7 brand new people plus a couple for a re-rating, and now Friday, tomorrow, we're going to have another 7. So this is a busy time for that, for adding to our membership in that. So, so these projects will negate the need for another field and at least table the consideration until the property maybe become available. This is really new for us because when you go to see Liberty Field over the years, the club basically paid for most everything that you see there. And so a year and a half or so ago, things changed here in Sun City West as far as utilization of reserve funds and that towards projects. Bill Schwind said, we're all retired. We shouldn't have to work and get money together to do some of the improvements that we want to do. And so while we're not against still doing that, we're complying with the guidelines that have been established. So this is why we're up here talking to you today to get some consideration for some of these projects. Any questions?
I have one before I open it up to the committee. When you were talking about the fencing, are you talking about replacing the existing or putting in a new?
Replacing the existing fence with the new.
Okay.
And I think Carl will address that a little bit in his session here when he talks about it.
Okay. And what is this other handout we have on the softball bleacher canopies? Carl will go over
Yeah,
that?
he'll talk about that too. Good
Okay.
catch.
I'll add that to my discussion.
Okay, great. Okay, do we have any questions from the committee? Sherry?
So for meeting rooms, have you looked into using the existing Kuntz multi-purpose rooms for your meetings?
What we do is every year when all the clubs are required to put in their requests for rooms, we do that. And majority of the times we get scheduled for the Agave room over at Beardsley because that has sufficient room in it and that. Now the difference though is that we get charged for the rooms. And so with the number of meetings that we require, we're looking at close to $2,000 a year for that.
So the Kuntz rooms have opened up since the quilting moved over. And so 5 and 4 have a lot more availability.
Okay.
Do they have a multi-projector and things in it?
I don't know, but maybe that's something that they have had or could add.
Well, what will happen is we'll have a representative that will go sit with Jan, and then we'll have already submitted the dates and everything, and then we sit with Jan, and then if they're not available, a room, because once in a while the Agave room's not available, so then we'll go to other location. We have been up. We had meetings up at Kuntz a year or two ago, I think it was. We're open for that.
Okay. I have another question. If you have this batting cage and charging, are you going to require a monitor or need monitors there since it's a charging facility? And is that going to be rec center staff or is that going to be your club?
The benefit of like when you have the cards that you're using like that, or some places have tokens where they could come and buy tokens. You just swipe your card on your own, so you don't have to have somebody standing out there all the time. But maintenance and that would be a concern that we'd have to address too. And sometimes if you get with companies that you make those purchases, they have maintenance agreements on there that they come and maintain them. Now, if there's a breakdown or something, then we would have to address that as well.
And how, you're talking about opening up 7 days a week. So when do you do that vacuuming and when would you propose now you're going to have to do additional vacuuming instead of the grass work? Who does that? Is that rec center staff?
Yeah,
Is
that would be rec center staff. And the timing, they generally are out there about 6 o'clock in the mornings when they're doing their maintenance work. We don't start playing in the summertime. The earliest we ever start would be 7 o'clock. And on those particular days, if Todd's people are working, we wouldn't schedule that early, but it'd be done before we normally start our games.
And you're saying that you would need a larger vacuum for the volume. Is that in the proposal too, that we're going to purchase that equipment?
That would be included in there, yeah.
Okay, that's all I
What,
have for
the
now.
thing that you have right now with what they use is they've got a little piece of equipment they pull behind a lawn tractor. And so it works great for the infield. But then when we add the outfield, that's about another 41,000 square feet that we'd need a little bit bigger piece of equipment for that.
All right, any other, Marie?
I have a couple questions as well. Going back to your follow-up on what you just asked, the maintenance for the batting cages, is that going to be added to the future budget to be able
That
to do
would
that?
be, that would have to be included with the project and everything. And again, like I said, when whoever they would get the equipment from, then they would work on a maintenance agreement with them. And I'll let Carl address, because I think I know what he's going to say. Go ahead.
That would become an operational expense, so, I mean, it would have to be discussed, and we do talk about those things in advance when a capital project like this is presented. You know, what is the additional cost? So that would get addressed, but it wouldn't be in a capital portion of this.
Perfect, thank you. And another question, just clarification. You were describing the railing for people who have mobility issues or are handicapped to be able to go up. And then you said they go into 3 seats in, they could become unstable. Are you proposing a railing all the way through the seatings as well? I was trying to visualize what you were saying.
The main point on this one is we would have an area up in the very top where they can come in from the backside, and then with their wheelchairs, they'd have room to sit there. Again, if they have walkers, some of the walkers that they have, you can sit on those, and then we would have seating up there as well for the individual. So it would reduce the amount of time number of times that they would want to go down the steps.
But what about somebody who wants to go 3 seats in from the railing? How are we going to address that issue?
I'll give you a better explanation when I throw up some slides here in a moment, and it will
Okay.
answer that.
Okay, perfect. I do have another question if I can continue. Sorry. May I?
Jim?
Okay, thank you. You said that 84 teams or 184 teams or something, and you have lockers for their uniforms? Right, you hold their uniforms?
We had, for this past year, we had 83 different teams that played in the various leagues that we had.
Okay, so you're saying you need lockers for all those people?
No, I did not say that. We have a storage room or cabinet in there that they're all on shelves.
Okay.
And they are locked though, so nobody can get in there, but there's not individual lockers for each of them.
So that they can put their uniforms there, so when they go play, they can just grab,
No.
I'm not familiar with what you're talking
No,
about. so
I understand.
I apologize.
That's a good question. What that storage is just for equipment storage. The individual players, they're assigned, when they get drafted on a team, they'll get a jersey for their team. And then they have that for that session. And so they take those jerseys home. And so there's no locker facilities at the ball field like you have at the swimming pools and that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Once you start this remodeling, I'm sure everything will have to be ADA compliant. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Do you have a tentative budget for this project? Carl, you're gonna do that?
Yeah, I'd like to just carry that into my session next, and I'll
Alright.
answer a lot of these questions. Real quick to Jim Krause's question, we are currently ADA compliant.
Right.
It's just based on today's design and layout and functionability, it's perceived that it's not as convenient as it could be if a redesign was done. So, but we are ADA compliant in the bleachers and the current walkways. It's just there is some perceived inconveniences.
All right,
I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about turf. You know, it's going to be a lot hotter than grass. Turf is a lot hotter than grass. Also, when you lay down that artificial turf, that surface underneath it will become hard, especially in Arizona. It will be hard. And when they install the turf, you know, they sprinkle little black stuff in there. It's rubberized stuff to keep the grass up. You won't be vacuuming that. You'll be raking it. I don't know if maintenance has a whole bunch of
Go ahead.
experience with large turf fields, but yeah, there's a lot of drainage stuff, and there's a lot of reasons. I've installed 2, or I've been the project manager for 2 at a high school. The worst part was we had a lot more injuries on it for the high school kids, which we didn't like. Of course, you have to have different shoes. You have to have a different, you know, playing sense out there also. And I just wanted to bring that up. There's a few other things that goes with, you know.
Before
Turf.
Carl responds, I just want to make, when we play in, especially the summer sessions, they'll start around the 1st of May, and then, like I said, they run till about Labor Day, after Labor Day. And that is the hottest time, obviously, of the year. But when we schedule our games, the games start usually between 7:30 and 8 in the morning, and then they're done by about 10:30 to 11. And so we avoid the hottest time. But no, you're exactly right. The turf is hotter than what grass is. But we can control that with our scheduling and that.
And then I'd just like to follow up on the equipment for maintenance. Over the last few years, that the artificial turf that exists there today has been used, you're right, raking and vacuuming. So we have a maintenance program currently where they come in with a vacuum and they actually suck up those pellets, clean them, get all of the little debris from sticks and twigs, and then they replace and put that rubber back in. So there's kind of a dual conversation here from a maintenance perspective. And it's been the history so far that we have split that cost with the club. So each year, the club and I schedule a time to have a maintenance company come in, vacuum up that field, and we split that cost.
So,
It's a shared responsibility between the club and facilities maintenance. But when we do that, I facilitate that with the club, and I hire a General Acrylics to come. They bring out their professional equipment, and that's for the 1-year maintenance. Now the raking and the weekly stuff that the club is talking about, they already own small machine. But if this field were to increase in size with AstroTurf, they're probably going to need to expand that machine to make it quicker, more efficient.
I wanted to ask about the batting cages, because in prior years, batting cages has come up, and
and there are some drawbacks to that and some questions about that. And I understand you're talking about a revenue-producing entity. Is this going to be like the golf courses that have the range balls that anybody can come in and use? Or is this, you said revenue from outside. I can't see the possibility of I'm not a member of the club. I walk up, I say, I want to use the batting cage with my grandson or somebody.
The majority of the times, obviously, would be by the softball club members that would be used. It depends upon where the location ends up being put. But like you mentioned, your grandson and that, when family members come in, they could go in and use the facilities as well. It could be open to the outside if the rec center decides they would prefer not to do that. Well, then that's how it'll be set up that way. So,
Knowing the layout there and in the past, and you're talking about the hours it would be open, there would need to be lighting back there, and lighting back there, the neighborhood has had some input.
sure.
So I'm sure that'll be addressed. Carl will address that. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions for Dave? All right. Yes.
Anyway, you hear me. I'm president, and just want to sideline Vegas terrible field of careful. I get players some new technology that reduces temperature and reduces maintenance. So get right into that.
Thank you
Any
for
other
giving us
questions?
time to talk to you.
Okay, Carl? You want to? You're up. You're it.
On the it's all going to go hand in hand by the time I complete my,
Oh, okay, because, all right.
okay? Now I'm up. Right on. Okay, so this is the initial conversation for the proposed capital improvements list for FY23-24. This is for all departments of the rec centers. I will do my best to answer questions if any of them pertain to any of our other department line items. I will focus mainly on what Properties Committee focuses on. There are a few items on this list that are either vehicles or some equipment. But just like every committee has the opportunity to see the full list in its entirety, we have already been to Budget and Finance for their initial review. We have been to the Charter Clubs Committee. Today you are hearing it, and then on Friday we'll present this at the Governing Board workshop. It is my hopes that all these committees give this list a good review and prepared with any additional comments for our November meetings. As this list, I believe, is very complete. Thanks to the project planning process, we talked about that earlier, about should we make any changes. I will say that it has gone excellently. So the fact that anybody that did request any new capital, they did get it in on time in July as the project planning process spells out. We've had a summer to discuss items such as these new softball items with the club and get some conversation going on what direction is best for the club and the rec centers, so we can present to you today. And again, just before I get started, the outcome of our next couple months is this list and its finality has to be given to the general manager on December 1st with your recommendations to the governing board so that they can choose what items are either staying, deleting, or getting modified as we continue on with the budget cycle. So let me get started. Like I said, I'm going to spend a little extra time on these, on the new section. I have the list divided between new, repair and replacement, and allowances. And then when I'm done, I don't think you have any documents on it, but I'll just lightly touch on that there's also an operating component in the budget. And most operating things that I discuss have to do with property improvements. So I'll just lightly touch on that when I'm done. So you've heard the presentations today from the softball club. This discussion began in early July. It's been really nice to be able to sit down with Casey Huta, the club, other staff members to talk about their proposed ideas. I'm going to try to give you the best information that I can. Please point out in these first 4 items, the proposed fiscal year says to be determined. So those are some things that you need to deliberate on and discuss to give your recommendation to the governing board. I will help you understand that. Also remember too that, you know, I try to do my best for the benefit of the club. They bring an idea forward, they're passionate about their activity in their club, but they're not necessarily construction planners. So I try to help them with the best knowledge, my feelings on the areas that they're asking for things to be done in, and I'm also going to give you that same honest recommendation. So starting off at the clubhouse expansion, the club has asked for a Part A, Part B scenario with the clubhouse either being remodeled or expanded in its existing footprint. After having some discussions with the architect over the summer, the structure is not originally built to be modified. So I do not see the means of being able to do that. I'm not saying that the building can't be renovated somehow to use its existing quarters in maybe better ways. So that is open for discussion. And then their Plan B modeling is if nothing can be done at the existing clubhouse, it was brought up to build a 2,000 square foot building beyond the outfield fence line where they have a shed and where they've also discussed putting batting cages. Neither here nor there on that idea. It's feasible by location, but after doing research on our utility infrastructure, I do not have a sewer line in that area. So I feel that would require some major engineering and investigation on whether that's even possible. And I don't currently have the electrical infrastructure, and I don't currently have the fire infrastructure. So the clubhouse idea is something that deserves investigating, if that's your recommendation, and a lot more discussion on how we could facilitate that, whether it's in the A-B scenario that the club has asked for or in an alternate location that might need to fall into some kind of master planning category. So the dollar amount that you see for $1 million is really a large figure assumption. You know, this can be begun as a engineering and design discussion, which requires minimal dollars, but still something placed in the budget if we're moving forward. It's my recommendation based on the project planning process that this goes through the 2-year process at a minimum. So I don't think it's solvable in just an immediate budget cycle. So I think some work needs to be done here. And again, you've heard the club's presentation for that today. Moving on to the bleacher area renovation. Russ, can I ask you to throw up the set of plan pages? Thank you, sir. The club's presentation for improved bleacher area renovation. The club and the rec centers invested very nicely into a set of plans that were completed in 2016. In 2016, if you could shrink that down to page 2, you will see that the work has been performed on grading and drainage, a lot of engineering for the bleacher area renovation. This is a beautiful set of plans. I've reviewed them fully. They are complete they are a working set of documents. It includes everything that was discussed today, from an ADA modifications to bleachers. I've had a few back and forth conversations with the club on this. I think they will agree that this is not exactly what they're asking for. This is an opportunity because the plans exist, but the term value engineering comes to mind for me, which means taking all their ideas and finding the best solution to find what they're passionate about improving. So primarily the conversation has been about bleachers, more accessible ADA compliance. So if you notice in the bleachers on third baseline, we do have an opportunity to come off of the parking lot and sidewalks with a design bleacher system that basically a ramp can go, a horizontal ramp can go right into the mid section of the bleachers and provide upper level access to somebody that's ADA requirements or mobility impairments, including moving the bleachers back so that the front does have a greater accessible zone to traffic, the front row seating. So that's, entirely possible. Modifications around the clubhouse. I do believe it is possible to make concrete modifications if we deem necessary a different ramp system. Currently, people do have to go around to the north, and there's basically a vehicle ramp that is a legal accessible area, and then they also have to come around the R.H. Johnson Boulevard side to go to the first baseline, and that is an accessible area. The building itself has fully accessible bathrooms, but the club is correct that when you're down in that lower section, you have to go the extra mile to get some of these areas, and it has value to what they're bringing to the table. So on the first base side, the club has to give up some space if they want a bleacher modification that is more to their conversation, because there is depth restrictions off of R.H. Johnson Boulevard, approximately 20 foot. So it's not that easy just to move the bleachers back. I do believe there's a little bit of room. The ADA accessibility part on a first base line would be more designed to be front row. So if they're moving them back, there should be an expectation that the front row bleachers are the ADA location. So that's an understanding that the club needs to have per design. They do have a picnic area that probably needs to be expanded into a bit, so a little bit of sacrifice on their picnic area. I already discussed with the club too that on the third base side, that if they wanted additional bleachers, then they'd have to give up on some of their current shade canopies, and we'd have to modify and redesign that area a bit. So there's some components here that are just a little more than concrete and bleachers and ramps. But it's doable, and it's, I'm open for the conversation and hearing your recommendations over the next month or so, okay? So moving on to the next project, full field artificial turf replacement. The previous committees have asked just for a little additional information, and that is basically the return on investment information. What are you getting if you spend the money on additional turf as opposed to relieving some of the services that we currently provide. So that's what the previous committees asked. The dollar you see for $450,000 is an accurate amount based on the conversations I've had with General Acrylics. I'll backtrack just a little bit on the bleachers. That $1 million mark is also big picture assumption. Value engineering, like I said, conversations, we believe that we do need to do all 14 buildings just to find out of what do we have truly as a functioning electrical and mechanical system at those buildings. If you look at site maps of each pro shop, and if there was any future conversation about expanded structures for storing additional carts or anything like that, it would be best known whether, can a structure go at a pro shop or does it need to go to a maintenance yard so that we're not, uglying up the pro shop properties, you know what I'm saying? So that is a discussion that's open, $93,100 for an overall electrical and mechanical assessment for EV carts. At the Kuntz, we have an art room HVAC duct replacement that is necessary for $50,000. Desert Trails, the pro shop manager and Pat O'Hara have requested a storage area roof structure be built. Originally, they requested 2. So over at Desert Trails, you could see that there's 2 enclosed masonry yards. One's a small one that goes between the pro shop and the garage, and the other one is on the outside of the garage door. It's a much larger area. Originally, they asked for both of those to be considered for covering with a metal roof structure. We have narrowed that down to just the little storage area because if we needed the larger one covered, I think we would cover that during a future conversation about EV carts or expanding of a golf cart fleet. So we're just asking today for the small storage area to be covered with a steel roof like we have at other pro shops. An example would be Deer Valley has that same space covered, and that is what the pro shop managers are asking for at Desert Trails. Beardsley Arts and Crafts Courtyard, shade structure and concrete, $45,000. We have completed the greenhouse. The Desert Garden Club has done an amazing job on beautifying the botanical gardens. During that project, there was a planter box in the Arts and Crafts rear courtyard, and a tree fell and damaged that planter box, so we removed it. And right now, it just sits as a soil-filled void in the concrete. We talked about it over the last few months, and staff is asked to put up an 18 by 31 covered shade structure and fix all the concrete and either put pavers in or new concrete in that area. And so that rear Arts and Crafts courtyard would be fabric covered and 18 by 31. I'll kind of quickly go through, it's been requested for a new pickup truck for facility operations. Moving on to Desert Trails Pro Shop, a patio shade structure. So the same team at Desert Trails has asked that I duplicate what we did a year and a half ago at Deer Valley. If you see Deer Valley's front fixed patio with a finished roof right next to it, I built a pavered expanded patio area with a fabric shade structure, and they would like that duplicated. It's been quite successful, and the cost for that is $30,000. Over at the Sports Pavilion, Barry Hardesty, the manager of the Sports Pavilion, has asked for a new sound system to be installed in Lizard Acres for $21,000. R.H. Johnson Environmental Maintenance Yard, Storage Cargo Container. Jack Stroup has requested that we could use some additional storage. This is a very efficient way of expanding our storage area. Today's price for a cargo container is $8,000. I put in the budget for $10,000 for inflation. And that completes the new portion of the capital list. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from the committee? Marie?
I have a couple. Carl,
Yes,
the value you put down for the pickup truck, is that for a new or a used?
that would be a brand-new pickup truck.
You think that's high enough?
I count on that the person that places in the budget and the CFO have done their homework.
Because I read something today, that the shortages that they have, that the values are really going up for brand new trucks. So, yeah,
I'll defer that to Pete.
okay.
On that comment, should anything change, and we expect change, I already know of a deletion. So when you see this, you'll see this every month until you make your recommendation. So all changes will be made in a new column for the next go-around, okay?
So on the bleacher recommendation, we saw a beautiful plan up here. What is the club? Are you willing to accept that bleacher, or do you have additional tweaks to that? Or what's going on with, why didn't we accept the plan?
It was cost prohibitive at that time. The club was going to pay for that, but then the club decided to put in the artificial turf in the infield for $150,000, and we paid for that. And so that was a start to this. Will the club accept less than what Carl just briefed? Yes, and he has done a lot of research on replacement bleachers that will reduce that by at least 70%, that we would accept with our conversations with Mr. Schwind and with Carl, that we would accept and make it a better place for Sun City West also.
Okay. Thank you.
That was the term I used, value engineering it. I did have those discussions with the club, and they're willing to work on it. So we just have to have some direction on, you know, are we proceeding with this conversation? Are we going to put engineering dollars into it, planning dollars?
When I met with Carl, he says, do you want the $1 million thing, or do you want something that's practical? So we're working with that. So.
Thank you. I'm assuming that with those plans of the bleachers, you're talking about the existing footprint for the clubhouse expansion, or would that make all those plans void if you're going to go outside of the footprint?
Those plans don't include really any modification to a clubhouse. That was all about an area, bleacher use, sidewalks, renovation plan from the club. And the only thing that would be, you know, a major change to that plan would be the value engineering aspect. So them plans are complete. They have the full level detail of new roof structures. All that would be pulled out, and the architect would basically go back to the drawing board. But a lot of the homework has been done, meaning I know what the grading and drainage is. We know that it's possible to buy a manufacturer set of bleachers, that it'll fit, that an ADA ramp to those bleachers will work. So the information is quite helpful, but those plans would need to be redrawn to whatever level is finally decided for the club.
Thank you.
We have our tour of Kuntz on the 18th, and I think some of this would be a lot clearer to the committee when we're out there and we see what they're talking about. Okay, any other questions for Carl on the first page? Just like to remind the committee that the golf committee, Harry's here, who's in charge of that. He's the board member who chairs that committee. That's mainly their purview. We don't do the golf courses.
Okay, moving on to repair and replacement. All of this information is yearly extracted from the reserve study maintenance tool. And so it's not a difficult list to put together, but I will tell you that I've shared this in previous committee conversations, that just because an item comes up in the tool each particular year does not mean it makes this list. So if I had to give you a review of September's meetings with all of staff, Russ and I go to each department's manager and ask and show them what came up in their areas on the reserve study tool. And we do a review of those areas. So an example would be the carpeting in this particular room was an item that came up a year ago, and you can see that we made the choice to not include that into this year's repair and replacement cycle. We have pushed it in the tool until its useful life is truly used up. So we take that consideration for every line item in the tool. This is your list that has been determined as R&R, starting off at the R.H. Johnson Parking Lot 3, mill and resurface for $978,500. This is an identical project that you see. It's happening in Parking Lot 2 currently in Phase 1 is complete and Phase 2 is in progress. This dollar amount does factor in a considerable amount for the soil stabilization. We have had soil stabilization at every single parking lot that I've done over the last couple of years. And R.H. Johnson's library parking lot is the first one that required 100% stabilization. So moving on to the Kuntz softball field outfield fence replacement. The club did give you a presentation today about turf replacement. Wherever the committees decide to give their recommendation for the club on that turf replacement, it is my recommendation to you that this outfield fence happen at the same time. It's $648,901 in today's costing. It is subject to inflation. If artificial turf were to be approved, I would like you to seriously consider a recommendation of doing this project at the same time. Otherwise, the opportunities of damaging the AstroTurf or the artificial turf to put in large 30-foot poles, the diameter and the foundation required for that, the equipment required to get that in. The existing fence is a repair and replacement item. It started off at approximately 20 feet tall. As the players improved in their skills, they started hitting the balls further and further out of the field. The fence went up to 24 feet approximately, and there are areas where it's higher with netting. And so we propose a brand new 30-foot fence engineered appropriately. Over at Beardsley Arts and Crafts parking lot, 7 years ago, the aquatics parking lot was done with a mill and replacement, and we are finally around to the useful life being completed over at the Arts and Crafts parking lot. So again, full mill and replacement, $412,000. Palm Ridge pickleball light fixtures, convert the LED fixtures on courts 1 through 18. Over the last 5 years, we've had an energy conservation program where we've converted virtually all areas of lighting. The interior buildings will be 100% complete once we finish R.H. Johnson in this season to convert these fixtures you see here to LED. And throughout the years, we've done the parking lots at all the rec centers, so those are done. And it was brought to my attention, Russ reminded me that, hey, we still got a couple sports facilities to consider. So I went out and did my due diligence on that. Palm Ridge has metal halide fixtures. They are continually going out. In fact, I think we have one on our list to be replaced here shortly. They're expensive. They don't last as long as LED, and they use a heck of a lot more energy. So the previous committees just asked to give a little better information on return of investment on doing this sort of conversion, and I'll be happy to provide that in a future meeting. But converting all of the metal halide fixtures at pickleball to LED Musco lighting for $309,000. Over at the sports pavilion, it has come to our attention that the lanes are failing. They have met their useful life. Barry Hardesty has brought staff together, the general manager, all of us, and we observed the conditions. As you start from lanes 1 through 6 and then into the other portion of the 24 other lanes, you'll see that the joints at all of the overlayment lanes are lifting, and it's either from moisture content or oiling or original install from use is loosened, and it's allowed something to penetrate in there, and those lanes are in kind of rough condition. So they've made some modifications to get through this next season, but it has been placed in the budget for $278,226 to replace all 30 lanes of the flooring material. Moving on to the R.H. Johnson pool deck resurface. Yes, we have a 6.5-year-old beautiful pool facility at R.H. Johnson. It has cool deck. Russ expressed that earlier, and it's not lasting. It is not making its life that we would expect out of the materials we try to use here. We've discussed this in some length. As we've discussed it, and time has gone by, more areas keep crumbling, and facilities maintenance keeps cleaning it up and doing the best to keep it safe. So I propose that this go into the budget to have the same rubber decking put on the entire R.H. Johnson pool deck that we've done at Kuntz, and that is proposed for $205,516. Moving on to Grandview, the Pro Shop parking lot, mill and replacement, $160,680. Again, this is a full tear out of the asphalt and replacement. Trail Ridge Pro Shop parking lot, mill and resurface, same exact project, $159,650. Staff has found in the tool that the Beardsley cardio equipment, 6 treadmills and 4 cross trainers are due for replacement, $123,600. Sports Pavilion additional project during the proposed lane replacement is the ball returns be replaced as well. It's a hand-in-hand project, and that is in the budget for $108,948. R.H. Johnson Metal Shop roof and tile replacement. I manage all of the ongoing roof restorations for the rec centers. After building the addition at the metal shop's roof wasn't quite ready per our tracker to be restored, but seeing the conditions that it's in, we're going to escalate that by approximately 1 year and request that it be done in the next budget for $51,500. But the R.H. Johnson bocce courts flooring replacement is due for the artificial turf to be replaced. This includes the Trex boards that the artificial turf is attached to. We attempted to just do an artificial turf replacement, which is what this cost is based off of. I do have vendors currently providing me the cost to do the Trex edging board replacement as well, so that'll change in the next time you see this. At this point, the vendors cannot take the old carpet off and get all the old glue off. We're gonna do some workarounds and see with facilities maintenance if that's possible on our own time and dime. So I'll report a little bit more on that in the next meeting. R.H. Johnson, Kuntz Craft Rooms 3, 4, and 5. The chairs need replacement, $51,153. Kuntz Pool Heater replacement, $48,834. R.H. Johnson Metal Shop Roof Flat Restore. So this is just an additional area of the R.H. Johnson roofing system. So get the tile done, get the flat roof restored. We don't have to worry about that for 15 more years, $40,170. Beardsley Clay Club flooring replacement. I did my best to facilitate the center room for the Clay Club when we did the brand new monitors booth. Flooring costs came in a little more expensive, and to do a nice epoxy floor in the middle room and not do it on the other rooms when it was coming up in the replacement tool, we talked to the club and we just held off, and we just put the full amount for all 3 rooms to have their floors epoxy chip sealed, and we're putting that into the budget here for $36,037. Facilities maintenance has a low HVAC unit replacement count this year, so HVAC units for all areas, only 30,357. Sports Pavilion Memos Cafe, if you were to take a tour of Memos Cafe and look at their quality of their cabinets and countertops behind the serving bar, they're in very poor condition. The Memos and the Sports Pavilion manager have asked to have the cabinets and the countertops replaced in that area, $25,000. The Sports Pavilion bowling area sound system is an existing sound system, so that is why it's a repair and replacement item, and that is being asked to be upgraded, $20,259. A new Beardsley auto scrubber. The R.H. Johnson lawn bowling flat roof is due to be restored. And then the last item you'll see in our next meeting, this will be deleted. The Kuntz chemical controller is not necessary. It will be taken care of through facilities maintenance and repair parts. There's no need for a brand new controller. Moving on to the golf segment of repair and replacement. Yearly, we have golf maintenance equipment and vehicles and golf carts, so I'll go through those a little quickly. Golf maintenance equipment, $1,389,235. As we continue on in the season, you'll see more detailed slides on exactly what those counts are and provide any other information if you have any questions. Golf maintenance vehicles, $275,161. 20 additional golf carts, $123,600. The Grandview Golf Course Cart Path Flurry Seal, Todd handles his own cart paths asphalt maintenance, $67,531. In the landscaping department, a new mower, $39,243. In the landscaping department, a new pickup truck, $37,097. Grandview Golf Course Lake aeration modifications at number 6 and number 8, $23,881. Trail Ridge, a new golf ball picker, club car carryall with cage, $13,506. Desert Trails golf cart utility hauler, $9,454. And Echo Mesa Golf Course Lake area modifications at number 1 and 8 for $6,956. That's it for R&R. Do you have any questions?
On the chair replacement, are the frames to where that could be recovered? Or is this a type of chair that can't be recovered and you need to just scrap them and get a new one?
I would have to get you additional information on that.
On the parking lots, we've been running into a lot of soil stabilization issues. So does this figure include soil stabilization?
All of my factors for mill and replacement in this proposed budget does take in consideration a contingency for soil stabilization. I haven't had nearly as much, and it's been consistent at the golf courses where I've had anywhere from 10 to 25%, and that's what it's factored on. So there's always a opportunity that I open up Trail Ridge or the other course listed here, and Grandview that is, and find out it needs more, and we'll have to do a facts and findings with the governing board. But I believe we've got a good assumption in there. And on the R.H. Johnson large parking lot, our assumption is 100% again. So this is the only one out of all the ones that we've done so far that have been unique. It's been 100%. And R.H. Johnson parking lot, when we tore it out, was basically a sandbox, like the dunes. As soon as a vehicle drove in it, the vehicle sunk down, and that is not something you could put the asphalt back on. I believe that sand was very compactable back 40 years ago when Del Webb built those parking lots, but over years it just changes due to moisture and time. So there is a factor in every one of the budgets.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the final section of the proposed FY 23-24 budget is allowances. Just to sum this up quickly, is allowances are for the unknown activities that occur throughout the year. We categorize so that people have a great understanding of what allowance is: safety and structural areas, well pump replacement, unexpected facility improvements, for unknown equipment failures, information technology upgrades, energy conservation, and ADA compliance. And this list has not varied much from last year, and its grand total is still $400,000. That concludes the proposed capital list. The only thing that I'd just like to comment on a little bit is just to make the group aware so that when we do our tours, there's the capital list and then there's an operating capital. And operating capital doesn't make the capital list due to the fact that it doesn't meet one of the two criteria. It over $5,000 and over 5 years of life expectancy. So for an example, a parking lot seal and stripe certainly costs more than $5,000, but we generally do it every 3 to 4 years. So that's why it gets implemented in an operating budget. So the areas that we'll discuss when we do our tours will be a light conversation on community offsite walls. So that's the walls that you see down R.H. Johnson Boulevard for paint, stucco, concrete, and paint repair. And that goes all the way from Grand Avenue in R.H. Johnson all the way the 3-4 miles to R.H. Johnson and Bell Road. So we have an R.H. Johnson parking lot seal and stripe going to happen in Lot 1, which is by the Tennis and Activity Center. By the time this budget is approved, we'll be about approximately 1 year later. So I will seal and stripe the brand new parking lot I'm doing at the library and men's club area. And then we will have exceeded the 1 year time frame for brand new asphalt. So Kuntz will get parking lots 1, 2, and 3 done. We'll have some general roof maintenance added to the operating budget where our vendor goes and basically make sure that all the debris is taken out of all of our roof drains, and if there's any bubbling to our surfaces, and this helps me ensure that the schedule of roof maintenance is tracking correctly. So that'll be added into the operating budget. Stardust Pro Shop will getting a seal and stripe. Palm Ridge Summit Hall hardwood floors will get a screen and seal again. We usually do that yearly. Social Hall hardwoods will get a screen and seal. The R.H. Johnson racquetball hardwoods will get a sand and seal. So we will take that 7 years of layering down all the way to raw wood and put its first coats back on. And ping pong room will also get us a screen and seal. The metal shop will get its first seal coat after 1 year of asphalt install. The Kuntz walking track will get a seal coat. And like I mentioned, ping pong hardwood screen and seal. That would be the entire capital and operating for for what I manage.
Do we have any questions? Any additional questions for Carl? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we will continue our discussion on the softball as it processes through. We're not coming to any consensus today. So we're up to our facility tour schedule. Don't forget, next week, we're doing Beardsley. Meet at the Aquatics Center at 7 o'clock. Reviewing what we did at Palm Ridge the other day, I sent out and distributed here a copy of our notes from our tour. Thank you, Sherry. we did have a question for Todd, and he's not here, about planting at the Palm Ridge Pool around the, where the spa is.
Roberta, we will share this information with Todd and get you an answer.
Okay, great, thank you. So, facility issue, we have our side, I wasn't sure, was that the south side, Carl? Russ, of the pickleball courts?
We can call it the south side, sure.
Yeah. Well, but anyway, the club is requesting that the sidewalk be widened and the curb be painted for a safety issue. On the upstairs walking track, definitely the chairs either need to be replaced or refurbished. The signage at Palm Ridge Pool, I understand that's been ordered.
Ordered and in possession of.
All right, thank you. Sort of a running joke with those of you who've been on properties for several years. It's one of the few last rec centers that has the old signage. And the lobby at the Summit Hall to either refresh or replace the dated furniture. On maintenance issue, so Russ, you were gonna check with the pickleball club about the first aid stations. One had a big red cross on it, but the other didn't. It was hard to see.
So when I got back from the tour that day, it was already in our maintenance ticket system and it's already being handled.
All right.
So what I'll do on these maintenance issues, I will give updates as to where they're at status-wise. And hopefully by the end of the tours, we have very few. The only ones that should still be being addressed are the new ones.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, because we mentioned the blinds in the workout area, especially one was sort of beat up. And in the aquatic center area in the restroom, women's restroom, there was a hole in the wall at the baseline. So that concludes, unless somebody has something else to add for our tour, any items?
Roberta, I would like to recommend, and I'm going to reference Tom's question about the chairs at Kuntz. Any questions you guys have to the list that Carl just went over? The tour is a perfect place to give a visual response to your, to give answers to your questions. Regarding the chairs, I can actually show you instead of try to explain. It makes more sense. So I would maybe highlight all those you have questions of, and then, you know, very similar to the way we did Palm Ridge, where Carl just kind of covered his list of things that were being handled at Palm Ridge. You'll already have a sneak peek, so to speak, for the rest of them.
Right, all right, thank you. So we'll see everybody next Tuesday at 7 a.m. at Beardsley. Okay. Do we have any committee member comments? Sherry?
On the tour schedule, it says October the 18th, Thursday. I think the 18th is a Tuesday, if we look at the calendar.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Tuesday.
So are we doing it on Tuesday or are we doing it on Thursday?
So we made a modification. I don't have mine with me, but I think that was caught and corrected, so you may have an old one.
Okay,
And if not, I'll double check and we can easily change that.
okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I don't miss one.
Okay. Anybody else? Tom? All right. Jim? No. All right. Do we have any comments from the audience? Please state your name and your rec card number, please.
Sharon Heddick, I'm on the board, Rec Center board. It's 106159. Two comments. One is, having had to sit in a wheelchair for 6 weeks when I had my knees replaced, I have a really good feel for what somebody does have a problem with regarding the handicap services. When you take a look at Kuntz, which I know we're going out to see, and you look at the ballpark, remember that if you were in a wheelchair or with a walker and the only place you can sit is in the front row, or if you try and go up any kind of steps with walkers or canes, you have instability in trying to get higher so that you can watch the game. So just keep those things in mind when you're looking at it from a handicapped person's perspective. It's a totally different view than when we're standing walking, just to keep it in mind. And the second thing is on the EV, the 93,000 for the EV, it says golf carts. It's basically also to check and find out where we need to have electricity added in general, because several of them, the cart barns themselves, do not have the correct electricity to be able to plug anything in. So it's not just because of the golf carts, but it needs to be looked at as an infrastructure type piece from and I know that goes to golf, but so that the Properties Committee understands what we're looking at. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, if we have no more comments or questions, I'll adjourn the meeting.